And this one has 176 verses. The longest. So there's a lot to talk about. We're going to jump a little bit to the issue of a Nazir, okay, which is on page 758. A Nazir is someone who takes a Nazirite vow. Doesn't that help? Right? That doesn't help. You can't use the same word in your definition of what something is. So let's see what this Nazir, right? Let's see what we're talking about over here. So let's go to page Doveron. Thank you. Let's go to page 758. Good morning, Cheryl. Chapter 6. Miri, you want to lead off over there?
Chapter 6.
Perek Vav.
וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר בני ישראל, ואמרת להם, איש או אישה, כי אפילו דור נדר נזיר, לנזיר לאדוני. עוד?
כן.
יין ושיחה יזיר חומץ יין, וחומץ שחר לא ישתה. וכל משרת ענבים לא ישתה, והענבים לחים ויבשים לא יאכל. כל מיני מזרון, מכל אשר יעשה מגפן היין, מחמצנים ועד זק לא יפרד.
Good. Okay, so in English now for us. Bailey, you want to take it for us or rather not?
Okay, I'll take it.
Okay.
From the 6th?
Yeah.
Okay. Hashem spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, a man or woman who shall dissociate himself by taking a Nazirite vow of abstinence for the sake of Hashem from new or aged wine shall be abstained, and he shall not drink vinegar of wine or vinegar of aged wine. Anything in which grapes have been steeped shall he not drink, and fresh and dry grapes shall he not eat. All the days of his abstinence, anything made from wine grapes, even the pips or skin, he shall not eat. All the days of his Nazirite vow, a razor shall not pass over his head until the completion of the days that he will be a Nazirite for the sake of Hashem. Holy shall he be, the growth of his hair on his head shall grow. All the days of his abstinence for the sake of Hashem, he shall not come near a dead person. To his father or to his mother, to his brother, to his sister, he shall not contaminate himself to them upon their death, for the crown of his God is upon his head. All the days of his abstinence, he is holy to Hashem.
Okay. So, beautiful. So this Nazir, right, either a man or a woman, they are accepting upon themselves added restrictions. Is that a good thing? Is that not a good thing? Right? On one hand, it seems to be a good thing. Well, why would it be a good thing?
If you're separating yourself for a time, it can be a very good thing.
Okay.
Your personal relationship and you're setting yourself aside.
Okay. Bring me an indication from the verses, that it's a good thing.
The absence for the sake of Hashem.
Right. Verse 8. Kol Yemei Nizro Kadosh Hu LaHashem. All the days of his abstinence, he is holy to Hashem. Right? So it seems to be a good thing. And Kathy, what were you saying? That you want to raise your game? How did you put it a moment ago?
To separate yourself, to have time.
Okay.
To make you're set aside. You're not just part of a nation that's been set aside. You're setting aside yourself personally to have time to study, to hear from the Lord, and maybe seek some answers too.
Okay.
In a time of seeking.
So you want to try to have this little zone that you're going into. What's a little bit strange is, go to page 761, verse 13, right? Completion of the term. Right? This shall be the law of the Nazarite on the day of his abstinence is completed. He shall bring himself to the entrance of the tent of meeting. shall bring his offering to Hashem. One unblemished sheep in its first year as an elevation offering. Karban ola, that is, it's completely burnt. One unblemished ewe in its first year as a sin offering, and one unblemished ram as a peace offering. What seems a little bit strange about that? Why does he need a sin offering? Why does he need to bring a sin offering? So let's try to get our bearings on this somewhat strange section over here. Right? God gave us how many mitzvot exactly is it? What do we say? 613. Is that not enough? Right? Are we supposed to become these ascetics, right, who cut ourselves off and go on to mountaintops? Is that what we're supposed to be? Is that the Jewish spirituality? Right? We discussed over Shavuot a number of times in a number of different contexts that we are supposed to be involved in this world and sanctifying it. Right? Whereas Christianity will view abstinence as a high value of holiness, but not everyone can ascribe to it, but that's certainly the zenith. We say absolutely not. We say, right, marriage is a fundamental, important value. And I know many great rabbis who became widowed later on in life, remarried. 60s, 70s, 80s, remarried. Right? Marriage is, to us, marriage is kiddushin, which is the same root as kadosh, as holiness. So, actually, by Shavuot, there's an interesting Gemara. The Gemara discusses that there are different opinions as to how to celebrate our holidays. And there's some opinions that say, Kulo Lashem. It should be set aside just completely spiritual. And others say, Lachem, for you. Supposed to be good, lavish meals and enjoyment. And they argue by different holidays, but when it comes to Shavuot, Shavuot is the time of our receiving the Torah on Mount Sinai. Everyone agrees you have to have aspects of lachem, of the physicality. On Shavuot, you have to have the physicality. On the contrary, Shavuot should be the time where everyone says it's all spiritual. It's the Torah. Why would we say Shavuot, the time receiving the Torah, why is that the time when everyone says you have to get involved in the physical? Seems strange. We would expect the opposite. Linda?
I think because the family is extremely important and teaching the children is extremely important. So if you don't demonstrate it physically, how will they know?
Okay, so why more by Shavuot than any other holiday?
Because that's when we got the rules.
To get the unity of spiritual and material.
Okay. Okay. So Rosa is saying that the whole idea of the Torah is meant to be this merge of the physical and the spiritual. I mentioned when I was speaking over Yom Tov, very interesting idea. I wish I heard this from a friend of mine, and a very nice idea. That Yaakov, Jacob, when he had the dream of the ladder, right? The ladder based on the earth, the top reaching the heavens, angels going up and down. So Sulam, ladder, has the same numerical value, gematria, as Sinai. And there's a medrash that Yaakov had a vision of Mount Sinai. Now, this ladder was based in Beersheba, and the top of it was over Beit El. And where was the middle of the ladder? What was that over? Har Moriah, the Temple Mount. Now, why is it important where the middle of the ladder is? What's the great importance of the middle of the ladder? Right? What's usually important is where you're putting it down, where you're getting to. The middle is just, how to get from point A to point B. You have to go through the middle. Cheryl.
It's the fulcrum. It's the middle, the tip, and the balance.
Okay, nice. So the Maharal says, if the bottom of the ladder is all about earthliness, as it's based on the ground, and the top of the ladder is all about spirituality, it's up in the heavens, then what does the middle of the ladder signify? Where the two come together. Where that physical is being transformed into the spiritual. Where was that located? Right over the Beit HaMikdash, the temple. Because that was the place where the physical and the spiritual merged together. And that is the vision of Mount Sinai that he had. Because Mount Sinai is all about the merging of the physical and the spiritual. So we're not supposed to be these ascetics who go off onto the mountaintops. We're supposed to be involved in this world. So why is this person a kadosh? Why is this person a holy person by doing this? It's not enough what God, very often Natalie, when people will say to her, don't you wish that you could be reading Torah? Don't you wish that you, could be doing all these things? And her heartfelt response is, I have my hands full with my woman responsibilities. And I'm not, I have my hands full. So shouldn't we have the attitude, we have our hands full with the 613 over here, right? We don't need to be adding on more and more things. Sandy, what do you want to say?
That's a question. So then why doesn't a Nazir, why is he prohibited from going near a woman? Then if we're supposed to be...
Why isn't he prohibited?
Why is he?
He's not prohibited from going near a woman.
So right before the receiving of the Torah, which was 3 days, go through...
Yes, before receiving the Torah we separate.
Yeah.
But that's not part of the restrictions of a Nazir.
Oh.
Okay? What are the 3 restrictions that a Nazir accepts upon himself or herself? Right? Any wine or grape derivatives. No cutting of the hair. And no coming in contact with the deceased. Right? Not attending funerals, not being involved in the funerals, in the preparation of the body, which is one of the greatest mitzvot, is preparing the body for the proper burial. Right? That's all of these things are called chesed shel emet. Chesed is kindness, emet is truth. It's true kindness because there is no reciprocity. Right? You're just doing this to help this soul that has left the body, right? To allow it to continue on to the next stages by dealing properly with the body. Right? So those are the 3 restrictions.
Could I ask one more question?
Yeah.
So holy means what? What does holy mean?
Kadosh means separated.
From?
So that's a big question. Right? We had earlier in the Parsha of Kedoshim Tihiyu, right? You should be Kedoshim. So Rashi explained that to mean separating from forbidden sexual relationships. Ramban viewed it more generally and said you should be separate, you should be uplifted, meaning that don't just keep the laws, but make sure also you living an uplifted existence. Meaning the laws are meant to lead you to an uplifted existence, but you can be what he calls a menuval b'rshut HaTorah. A menuval, a lowly person who stays within the parameters of the Torah, but living a lowly life. And therefore, don't get fixated on just the laws and not realize what that is supposed to bring you to. Okay? So the Nazir, it seems, feels that he or she needs a little bit of a timeout. A little bit of just a boost. A spiritual boost. Now, these three restrictions should somehow ring a bell for us. Who has restrictions in terms of attending funerals and dealing with the dead? Kohanim. Right? Kohanim. Why? What's the issue? Why is it that a regular Kohen could only tend to the funeral of the closest relatives? And the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, right? The Kohanim is a tribe, Bailey. It's a tribe amongst the nation of Israel. And they're the ones who were designated to perform the service in the temple in Jerusalem. And there was the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, who was the top in charge of all. And he, even for his mother and father or brother and sister, right, cannot tend. Why is it? Why are they supposed to stay away from death?
Purification.
Yes, good, Ilana, purification. But why? Well, so that's a correct answer, but in a way that's kicking the can a little further up the road. Why is there a lack of purification? Why is there this tumah, this ritual impurity when dealing with a mate, when dealing with a dead body? It's a great mitzvah. And very often, right, that really, something that I speak about at every funeral, that we have a halacha that when leaving the cemetery, one is supposed to wash their hands. I always explain, why do we wash our hands when leaving a cemetery? Our hands represent our actions, our productivity. Washing the hands is sanctifying that. Meaning, when we leave a funeral and we've just seen the fragility of life, we've seen just how temporary life is, so we walk away with a renewed sense of purpose, of a drive to accomplish, of the uncomfortable realization that at a certain point, that is going to be me. And therefore every day that I have is a gift of opportunity, and I consecrate my hands to move forward and to produce, to make sure that my life is meaningful, to make sure my days are meaningful. So if that's the case, so what's wrong with going to a funeral? Why is there impurity for a Kohen or for a Nazir when they deal with a mate?
Sorry. I feel
No.
strange being there. Is death a good thing? The Catholics have I forgot what they call it. They celebrate.
That person
Awake?
like,
Yeah.
Is death a good thing?
that person, it is like his soul already left his body, and it's something not so holy or clean.
Okay, so Rosa is saying that once the soul has left, the body is like an empty container. Okay? Okay? Is death a good thing?
Depends.
Meaning what?
I think it depends on what you did in this world, maybe.
Okay. Death is, yeah, I like what you're saying about it, right? It depends what we did in this world, right? If a person led a good, productive, God-connected life, then, life as we view it, a neshama, a soul is sent down into this world for a limited period of time in order to experience what it can't experience just as a soul, in order to have decisions and choices which it doesn't have when it's in the olam neshamot, in the spiritual world. It's a world of confusion. It's a world where God's presence is hidden. As we mentioned, the Hebrew word olam, which is the Hebrew word for world, comes from the root ayin lamed mem, which means hidden. So the Hebrew language defines this world as the place of hiddenness. What is hidden? God's glory, God's presence. And therefore we make decisions. And if we're making decisions, we own those decisions and they own us. We become those decisions.
Isn't this world also about temptation?
So there are right? There's no free choice if there aren't temptation. There isn't the good and the bad. So death is an inherent part of the process, a necessary part of the process. To the point we'll see in a few parshiot, actually in Devarim, that there's an incredible verse that tells us that we're not allowed to gouge ourselves as a show of agony after a death of a close one, which is what the nations of the world would do. Why? Because the pasuk says, "Banim atem la'Hashem Elokeichem." You are the children of God. And therefore, and some explain very beautifully that they give a mashal, a parable, a story of a king who needed his son not to be growing up pampered as the prince with all the privilege that goes along with that. He wanted him to understand the world and to learn how to develop on his own. So he sent him away to a faraway land. And he didn't have the privilege, he didn't have the name, he didn't have the wealth. And he had to create a life for himself. Once the king saw that his son had created this life for himself, he summoned the child to return back home. That's the mashal, that's the parable, that's the story. What's the nimshal? What's that referring to? A soul is sent down into this world. And then at a certain point, what does the king say? Come back home. And that's what death is. Therefore the pasuk says, don't gouge yourself in agony. You're the children of Hashem. The child has returned home. We're sad, we'll miss our relationship that we have with that child. But the child's returning home. So death is a perfect stage. Actually, it's the stage when the child is returning back home. So why isn't the Kohen involved? Why is the Nazir? Why can't they be involved? And they can't come in contact with a mate. Because with all of that, when you're confronted with the mate, we have our belief system, and that is the soul has left and are preparing the body so the soul can continue, and the child's returning back home. That's what we have in our head. But what are we confronted with? The end. It's all over. That which was a living, breathing, viable human being is no longer. And as we walk along, we see things that have died. You see birds. You see things that have died. Driving through certain parts of more on the East Coast in the summer, on your windshield, you see many, many things that were once alive, and they are no longer. And according to what we see, it sure looks like it's all over. And therefore the Kohanim, right, who are our spiritual leaders, elevators, they serve on our behalf. They have to maintain this focus constantly, so they don't confront this. So a Nazir is Kohen-like in that respect. What are the other restrictions of a Nazir? So there's the confronting death, there's the wine. Do we have that elsewhere also? Kind of, what of?
Oh, I'm just thinking like a certain prophet.
I'm certain what?
Certain prophet or somebody was told that you cannot do that.
A certain prophet?
Yep.
Talking about, who are you talking about?
Well, I'm thinking Shimshon, sorry.
Okay.
But
Shimshon was a Nazir.
No, he's a Nazir.
Right. But we're saying, who else besides the Nazir needs to stay away from the intoxicating beverage? Right? So if you remember back in Acharei Mot, you look quickly on page 636. Oh, 1 second. Oh, I'm sorry, it's after the end of Shmini. Just 1 second, I gave you the wrong place. Just 1 second.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go to 592 and then 594. 592 was the death of Nadav and Avihu, who brought that strange offering into the Holy of Holies. And that's followed by 594. Vaydaber Hashem spoke to Aaron saying, Yayin v'sheichar al tesht. Wine and intoxicating wine, old, new, you cannot drink. Ata you vanecha itach, you and your children with you. V'voachem, when you enter Oel Moed, v'lo tamutu, right? In order that you will not die. Chukat olam l'dorotechem. So who else has restrictions about wine? The priests again, the Kohanim. Not at all times, but when they're going in to do the avodah. Linda.
Is there any commentary on why the raw grapes?
Why what?
The raw grapes are forbidden?
That's interesting, right? What I think it is that it's a fence around the intoxication. That's what I think it is.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Why grapes? What's wrong with grapes?
Derivative.
Yeah. So I think it's a fence around the intoxication. And what's the third aspect of the Nazir?
The
Hair.
The hair. What is growing the hair? What does that represent?
Is it wisdom?
Wisdom, I'm not sure.
Haughtiness.
Right? There's a certain fixation on how I look. Right? And taking our outward physicality, right? You know, it's incredible how much emphasis the world puts on our outer appearance. And that's genetics. Right? You know, so what do we do to determine what nose I have? You know, the shape of my eyes, the shape of where my cheekbones are. You know, the color of my hair, if I have hair or not, right? You know, what does that have to do with who I am as a human being?
Conversely,
Right?
you could say that's
Yet we put so much emphasis on that. It's so misplaced. So the Nazir needs to step back from that fixation on my appearance, on this shell, recognizing that this shell has so little to do with who and what I am. That it's just this simple shell. Yes, Janet, sorry?
Conversely, one could say that's all been endowed by Hashem. And so it is key. That's how Hashem wants you to be and present to the world.
Yes. But why should I respect or seek the friendship, seek the companionship of one person that God granted high cheekbones to, and not someone else that God did not grant that natural beauty?
Fair enough.
That's what I'm saying. One of my favorite. This is the old Twilight Zone episodes. One of my favorite episodes, I remember seeing this as a kid and making such an impression on me, is that you go into this operating room, right? And they're trying to save, right, this woman who, as you're hearing, and of course everyone's in all their surgical gowns and masks, how this woman is so disfigured, and the doctors are valiantly trying to save this woman so she should not have to go through life with this grossly disfigured appearance. And then finally they finish and they peel back, and you have this incredibly beautiful woman there. And all the doctors say, "Oh, terrible. Such a failure," and they take off their surgical masks, and they have what we would consider to be disfigured. And it's just so, Rod Serling's voice then comes in, and it's just incredible, because it just shows us just how this is what we consider to be beautiful, and this is considered to be ugly. But who's to say that this is beautiful, ugly? It's just so subjective. It's just so empty. Cheryl.
I saw that one recently, but that's what I want to say is we have to take care of our bodies to the best of our ability, because Hashem gave that to us. So looking groomed or whatever.
100%. 100%. There's a story in the Talmud that I like to tell over, that Hillel, the great sage Hillel, was walking very resolutely, going somewhere with a real purpose. a real mission. The student said, Rebbe, where are you going? And he said, I'm going to do a big mitzvah. So all the students said, here's a great opportunity to learn. So they followed their Rebbe. And he went to a bathhouse. And he came out, so they waited. And then when he came out, they were waiting for him to continue to do his great mitzvah. All finished. Done. They said, Rebbe, what's this great mitzvah? And he said, if there was a statue of the king and it became dirtied, then wouldn't it be honoring the king by going and shining that statue of the king? We are created b'tselem Elokim, in the image of God. So we have to maintain ourselves. And yes, whatever shell God decided to give us, we have to keep it clean and neat and kempt and presentable, 100%.
And healthy if possible.
And healthy. At the same time, right, we can't become overly fixated on that. So the Nazir, it seems, sensed that he or she was becoming overly fixated on this outward appearance. And therefore, they grow their hair. They grow their hair. All their, right? They grow it. Right? Now that we don't find by a Kohen. Actually, on the contrary, a Kohen had to have his hair cut, I believe, every 30 days. And had to do it. There were different shifts of Kohen going to do the service. They'd have to do it before their shift. And the Kohen Gadol would get a haircut every day. My father, Alav Hashem, used to give me haircuts. To take care of the wild ones, right? It didn't necessarily give the most even haircut, right? But the Kohen Gadol every day take care of any of the wild ones, right? We have to be kempt. Yet it's interesting that we refer to the Kohen's head as the Nazir, right? And this person is a Nazir. So to a certain degree, this person is deciding, I want to be like a Kohen. I want to be Kohen-like. Which means, and this is a very positive way of looking at it, yes, we have 613 mitzvot. But all those mitzvot are mitzvot that God's divine understanding established. Everyone can handle those. But perhaps there are some people who can handle more, at least for a period of time, in order to become that much closer. Similar to the Kohanim. So therefore we say, if you're doing that, then you are Kadosh. You're saying, this is what everyone can handle, but I can handle a little bit more for a period of time. So I then accept this upon myself. Now the idea is not that just for a brief spell I'll do this, but this will propel me. This will elevate me. That when I go back to my regular restrictions and laws, but I will have become uplifted through this process. So there is that kadosh aspect that is involved. I want to be like a Kohen. Was there someone who wanted to be like a Kohen and it didn't work out that well?
Korach.
Good, Janet. Right? Korach, right? We'll learn about him a few weeks up. Korach wanted to be like a Kohen. Didn't end up that well. He wanted Moshe's position. He wanted Aaron's position. And Moshe said to him, Rav lachem, b'nei Levi. It's enough for you, sons of Levi, of Levi. Hama'at, is it so small that God has separated you to make you this special tribe of Levi? Ubikashtem gam kahuna. You also want kahuna. So maybe it's not so good to want to become like a Kohen. Why was Korach blasted for it? Why was Korach earthquaked for it? Cheryl?
I think it was because it was an ego thing that he strove for this. It had nothing to do with being close to God.
Beautiful, Cheryl. A Kohen has the position of being closer to God. He has responsibilities in serving the nation. As a result of that position, as a result of those gifts, responsibilities, what happens? As a result of that closeness and those responsibilities, he gets honored. In the time of the Torah, the time of the Beit HaMikdash, what honor would he get? What honor would he get?
Portions of the sacrifice.
Sure, portions of the sacrifice. He would get truma. He get from the tithes. There are chaf dalid, 24 different matnot kahuna, gifts that are given to the Kohen. Nowadays we don't have all these things. What does the Kohen? But nevertheless, the Kohen is given an important position. How does that manifest itself today in our world? I'm sorry?
A lot of Leahs.
Good. He always gets the first aliyah. Whether he is a scholar or an ignoramus, he gets the first aliyah. He gets called the Torah.
And Duchening.
Right? He gives us the priestly blessing. Right? Which is so interesting. If you take a look for a moment.
Thought that he had all these features and all these merits, and it wasn't just.
I'm sorry?
Korach thought that he had all these features and merits. What? Korach,
Right. So Korach.
And it wasn't just he.
So Korach looked at all the honor that was being given to the Kohanim, to Aaron and to Moshe, and what did he want? He wanted the honor.
Yeah.
It wasn't that he wanted the closeness. So I'm going to point out something very interesting, though. We finish on page 762. The Torah tells us completes all the laws of the Nazir. Right, verse 21 concludes, this is the law of the Nazirite, pledged over to Hashem, aside from, right, socially do, right, these are the laws of the Nazir. The very next topic the Torah deals with, Hashem spoke to Moses saying, speak to Aaron and his son saying, so shall you bless the children of Israel. Say to them, Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha, Yer Hashem panav elecha v'yichuneka, Yisa Hashem panav elecha v'yaseim lecha shalom. Immediately after the Nazir, we have Birkat Kohanim, the blessing that the Kohanim would give, right? Which further cements this Nazir Kohen connection. So Korach, as Cheryl said so insightfully, Korach was in it he wanted the honor of the Kohanim. He wasn't seeking the closeness of the Kohanim. He wanted the honor of the Kohanim. That is a usurping of the benefits of a role without looking for earning the benefits of that role. The Nazir, on the other hand, is not looking for any of the benefits. What is the Nazir looking for? For the closeness. That's kadosh. That's holy. So what's the problem that we're left with then? Upon his termination, what do we say? Upon the completion, I should say. What does he need to bring? Sacrifices. One of them being a chatat, a sin offering. So why is the Nazir bringing a sin offering? What is the sin that he or she has done?
Well, one might be he had inadvertently got to me.
Okay.
That's one.
Okay. If he inadvertently became tamei, impure, then he needs to shave, he needs to bring sacrifices, needs to restart the whole count. So I understand, Dove, that, and bring sacrifices in the middle there before he restarts. I understand that there he needs to bring a sin offering because he accepted upon himself the responsibilities, included that he not